One. Assalamu alaikum. And we're live today. This is our episode 2 of our podcast. Joining me right now, I have brother Imran, and I have with me the young Munir. Inshallah, we'll have a successful podcast, and maybe we'll be joined by a couple other brothers. Brother Imran, take it away, please.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How's everyone doing? Yeah, I'm waiting for a response. Give us some comments.
Response from who? Our Facebook Live audience?
Yes. Who else?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe me.
Huh? Akil, how's it going?
I'm good, alhamdulillah.
All right. Today, we're gonna look at a few different things. Number one, how are you dealing with COVID-19? Number two, are you disciplined, or are you just fallen into just a relaxed mode, not doing anything at home? So we're going to talk about discipline a little bit. We're going to talk about the upside down world, and then we're going to talk about other infectious things, like some good things or good deeds that can be infectious as well.
Perfect. So I just like to tell us all quickly, for all you guys watching on the Facebook Live, I do have the comments up on my monitor, and I'm reading you. So I see you there, Hamdi, saying salam to us. Inshallah, you join the call. And then we have other brothers in the call. I won't say your guys' name out loud if you don't want it to be like embedded in the video, but Hamdi's part of the crew.
All right. Wa alaikum assalam, Hamdi. How's it going? You know, whose face also became itchy? As soon as COVID-19 began, whose face also became itchy? Akil, what about you?
Not really. I've always had an itchy face.
Munir?
Not really, no.
No, you don't get this urge to scratch your face all the time?
I guess my head became more scratched.
But not. What about now?
No,
No,
I'm good.
you're like, yeah, fine, I'm good. I don't need to scratch my face. Maybe because I'm growing out my beard, so it's becoming more itchy, right?
Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna grow out my hair and my beard until this whole pandemic is over, and come out like Oliver Queen with like a long beard and long hair, and inshallah, then we'll go through a transformation when I cut my hair and cut my beard after the whole pandemic. And what are some good things that are also infectious?
How's the wife? I'm working on an assignment. Hamdi came to a class. Assalamu alaikum.
Am I the only one on right now?
Yeah, I'm spotlighting you. Same, okay. Long beard and long hair, inshallah. Barbers are gonna be rich.
Okay. So Munir, do you have some things for us? What are some good things that are also infectious? What about smiles? Now, are you generally smiling or not smiling?
I think his connection dropped. So it's just you and I now.
Is it?
Yeah.
Or did he purposely leave as soon as we said let's put a spotlight on Munir?
I don't know. So the upside down world, that's the topic for today. What would you like to talk about it?
So what happens in the upside down world? Where does this concept come from?
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things, that's one, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of TV shows that are actually addressing pandemics, addressing a lot of the things that are going to become weird, right? But mainly we're getting this upside down world concept from the Stranger Things, right?
Or the Twilight Zone, according to brother, or Shamali, or I won't say their names if you don't want it to be recorded.
So, but once you enter this upside down world, right, everything is weird, right, and everything becomes dark and gloomy, and so really we have to address, is the current situation that we're in, is this the upside down world, or this is the right side up, and the world that we were in was upside down? Okay, what do you think?
I think it's like a matter of perspective because you could say upside down world or inside out world, but it's like everyone is in their own little tiny bubble or their own little world. So for some people, maybe nothing's changed at all. Maybe if you're like an at-home programmer, nothing has changed. But if you're like a very social, outgoing person, then a lot has changed, right? For me personally, it's not completely upside down, but some things did go sideways.
So, but what I'm asking is, what if this world is the right side up, right?
You mean in a
The
world
the
of
world the world where we're spending time with your family, the world where you get to do private ibadah, the world where the world where you're connecting through social media, right? As opposed to the previous world where everybody's out and about, but they're disconnected. Everybody's on their apps and everybody's on their phones, but they're out and about, but they're disconnected. Or the environmental problems that are occurring, right? We're driving around, we're moving around, causing so much pollution. But now in this period, even the environment is getting better, right? Dolphins are coming back to Florence, right? And you see some activity that is happening. So which is the upside down world? Is this the upside down world, or is what we were in before, was that the upside down world?
It's a philosophical question.
Munir, what do you think?
I think it's all like what Akil was saying. It's all a matter of perspective. So I guess if you were kind of a stay-at-home job before or you're online school, I guess it didn't have much of an effect on you. But I think people like myself who are like more out and social and like in that group with interaction, I know I feel like I crave it more that it's taken away from me compared to now that like when I had it, like I don't know, I guess I took it for granted kind of thing. And then now, since I'm taken away from it, I guess I start to crave it.
But so you're seeing that maybe this is writing the upside down world, right? So like before you didn't really crave it, but now it's actually creating that crave for you to be with people, to be social a little bit. Whereas
Yeah.
before you didn't even have that crave. What do you think?
Mm, I think it's more of kind of like it just gives you a kind of sense of like, oh, what you take for granted, and like I guess like what you were saying. So I don't know.
Is
It's
this
beautiful.
no? It's almost like, is this realization, meaning maybe
Mhm.
the world, but maybe the realization that we're going through, maybe that's what's being corrected here, right? Because before we took things for granted, now we are having certain realization. Akil, what do you think?
Um, I do think it puts a new perspective on things. When you say like the world, now I'm thinking of it two perspective. Like I was thinking of it from a human or a personal perspective now, but when you think of it from like a natural or a nature perspective, it's actually quite healthy. Like the things you're seeing happen environmentally speaking, because human disruption has been minimized, right? And I was reading this book called *Sapiens*, and I was saying like the greatest force of destruction or the greatest like virus to our planet was humans because we destroyed so many ecosystems and we like made what was natural unnatural in a way by moving and affecting different species. So it does seem like the world is getting a little bit less upside down from the perspective of nature, but then like from a human perspective, I would say it is like still a matter of perspective. It is upside down for some people, but I think there's a lot of positive things coming out of it now because of a change in perspective. When you're forced to shift and experience something new, it like refreshes your mindset. A lot of times people like to stay in their comfort zone, so they'd be like, "Oh, maybe I like hanging out with my friends, and maybe not." But now that you have no choice but to not hang out with your friends, it gives you that value. Like yeah, you might have been taking things for granted, but now you know what you truly care about.
So what? Here's the other thing. What should we be shifting towards?
Ah, that's that's a good question. Munir, what do you think? What would you like be shifting towards right now?
Shifting towards. In terms of what? In terms of like socially, like with like friends or like
Like now you're in this situation, right?
okay.
You're isolated in your home, right? You're
hmm
going through certain realizations. What are some shifts that you would want to make?
Um, Probably not take so much stuff for granted. Like for school and stuff like that. Like I'll come late a lot. and like it was my senior year, so like grad and stuff like that. But like when I look back on it, like I don't know, I feel like I should have spent like more time in school, like just to make those memories kind of thing. So I guess that's one thing that I would take from this.
Okay, Akil, what about yourself? What are some shifts that you would like to make?
I think this is like a great opportunity for me to practice self discipline because even though like I used to do like a lot of projects on my own time, on my own rate, now it's like the normal. Everyone is doing projects in their own time and their own pace. So it's not like I have more competition in that sense, right? Like for example, this podcast, it's like something I was thinking about doing with us, and you were thinking about it for a long time now, right? So we had it in the back burner, but we didn't really do it. But now it's needed. We forced ourselves to do it. So for me, that accountability when you have no pressure to do it is really important. Especially now, like I know, like I'm a person when I'm interacting with another person. Like say I have a face-to-face meeting with you, and like you want to get this done. It's more impactful for me. But then if you send me a text message, hey Akil, I think we should get X, Y, and Z done. It's not as impactful. But now everything's through text messages, so it's like closing that gap from face to face onto the digital plane. Meaning, when someone sends you like an email, and you might think it's not that urgent, right? Because if it was actually that urgent, they would have told you face to face, right? But now that's the case with everything. Everything is digital. So taking those non face to face interactions more seriously is a point for me.
There's another realization that I'm going through, right? Or rather, I went through this realization, but it was really hard for me to explain it to people. So, for example, I homeschooled my kids for a long time, right? And then after that, they chose to go to school. But now they're back into the scenario where they're being homeschooled, right? And so they're upset, like we escaped it, but now we're back, right? But really, what does it tell you about that? What type of learning can you do on your own as opposed to school? Munir, do you have a perspective from the last week that you like? I know you're on spring break right now, but
Yeah.
from the last week, what are some of your perspective from that angle?
I think school, like just in general, I think it's more than just, I would say, like learning and getting the knowledge. Because if I really wanted to learn about something and like was motivated to, like I could research it and like really like look into it. But I think school teaches you so much more with like social interactors and then just like I don't know, that conflict, like you're gonna get into conflict and that conflict resolution kind of thing. So I feel like it teaches you much more, and that's why like I don't know. And the classroom is like just a different, like I guess you could say society compared to like when you're just by yourself.
Akil, what about you? You're going through school right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what are your thoughts?
Um, just gonna be flat out. I wasn't very like a very social person. Like I don't really interact with people like that much. A lot of my circles were circles I'm still interacting with heavily, like people from Islamic relief such as OI's Hikmet, who is in the chat right now. Other people like from Momintum, the youth clubs, the masjid. Those are like the people I interact with, and like for me, interactions with them have not changed in a bit because I still text them. I still like Zoom meet and Skype with them, right? So from like those friendships are still there, but it's different when you can't hang out face to face.
Okay. But what about learning itself?
Um, I think it's exactly as Awais says in the chat. Necessity is the mother of invention, right? So for me, I've always like been like a person that like tries to self learn, right? Uh, YouTube tutorials are like my go to. So for me right now, watching videos on YouTube, watching live streams, reading, those are things that I'm not very foreign to me. So I work with that really well. Like the absence of an instructor, I could see as a hindrance to many people. If they're not, if they love uh, that face-to-face lesson, if they like people talking and like doing hands-on experiments, on like hands-on building things, that's a big loss for them. But people that were really good auditory learners or visual learners, that's like not a really big effect for them, I feel.
So one of the things, like for example, when I went through myself, and of course, this is like a unique situation itself that's creating for people where you're isolated and you're in your homes. But one of the things that I went through, for example, was when you're going through learning, right? I didn't really learn as much from university or high school as much as I learned on my own. right? I knew how to go through the classes. I knew how to get the grades, how to get the marks, right,
Mm-hmm.
and how to pass the course. But
Yeah.
then the actual learning I had to do. I had to create my own curriculum where I have my own set of books that I'm reading, the own set of even like even when I was doing my um, bachelor's, even master's, like a lot of the stuff that I did research on my own, I learned a lot more from that than the actual course, right? So do you think this environment will create that, or do you think it will the people won't really catch on?
Okay, that's a very, very good question. My optimistic answer, my hopeful answer, is that people will catch on and people will say, hey, you know what? By the year, like, it's the 21st century. Why are we still learning the same way they did, like, before World War One, right? So, I hope that people do adapt and be like, well, what do you know? I can get 2 hour I can get the 8 hours of school time or school lessons done in 2 hours on my own time. That's gonna be beneficial for me, right? So I hope it does stick. I think a lot of things are going to stick. I think a lot of people are going to be like, hey, why are we having so many meetings when it could have been done over email, right? A lot of people are going to be like, hey, why do we need to like have all the planning sessions face to face when we could do everything over Google Drive? And I think those efficiencies are going to grow. I hope, like optimistically. That's my answer, right? Um, Whether it's going to stick for a while, I think that's going to be a systemic answer because the education system is very like it's like an ancient system and it's still a system that's in place today. A lot of schools, a lot of teachers were forced to go online and work online. Whether like the government like provides incentive for that to be happening, whether companies like, for example, Audible right now, they put all the children education and learning section in their library, which is owned by Amazon, for free. So if you're an at-home parent trying to teach your kids using those scholastic materials that are audiobooks, you can now do that for your kids for free. So it was like made easier by the like generosity of organizations, I'd say. But whether that generosity persists after this pandemic is yet to be known. And I think if those things go away and they become premium services again, it just creates barriers to entry into like digital learning. So I think it'll have to be a systemic shift for it to stick. But I hope people force or push for it to stick because it makes everything more efficient.
So there was one book that I was reading. The title is, I'm not sure if I can even mention the title in this group. We have some kids watching, right? It's basically BS jobs, right? And what you realize is that a lot of jobs that are out there is just there just to keep the people busy, right? And you'll notice, for example, within a structure where a box is sent to an office, but nobody can open the box except for the IT person. And then the IT person will go, he'll open the box, he'll set it up, and all it does to set up a computer is just plug in the proper cables in the proper slots. It's like, one of those childhood. I mean, like, you were trained to do that, right? One of those childhood
Yeah.
toys, right? Where a triangle goes in a triangle, and a square goes in a square, and a circle goes in a circle. But what you do is you created a job where an individual has to come and do the connection for you, and the other people can do it. But now you've gone to an environment where you have to set up your own computer at home, right? No IT person is going to come and set that up. So there's a lot of jobs like that, right? And so part of this is that maybe this environment will remove these jobs. And so we were talking about disruption for the longest time, right? And so we were expecting that disruption to come 5 years from now or 10 years from now, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the disruption come right now. Right? And when this disruption came, a lot of people are just shocked and they're like, oh, we can't move, we can't do anything. And we don't know how to deal with the disruption. And because we never prepared ourselves to deal with the disruption. But part of this being the right side, meaning this rectifying this, that we will actually now build the right attitude and know how to deal with future disruptions, right? So for those people who are scared of, economically, in the future they will build their own savings, right? So for example, you had this for the longest time. People were told, don't worry about your savings, you can borrow from the future, right? So people were taking loans from their banks and paying interest on this, and there was a concept, there was a thought, an idea that people's salary will constantly go up. As if the salaries will constantly go up, right? Then people can actually borrow from the future. But what that does is, when disruption comes, you borrowed against the future. Now you can't deal with it. Now you have to pay off that loan, and you have to have the current survival as well, right? So maybe this moment is actually what is rectifying people's attitudes, right? And so we'll find the right way to learn. Maybe we will find the right way to get our jobs done, right? Maybe we'll say, okay, I have to become a linchpin. Okay, do you know the concept of linchpin?
Um, we had a long talk about it, but it wouldn't hurt if you refresh my memory.
Okay, so imagine the linchpin. It's like a carriage, right? And a carriage, you have a wheel that's going around, but what stops the wheel from falling off, right? So there's this pin that you put into the axle, right? That is the linchpin, right?
Yeah.
It keeps the wheel on the carriage, right? So now the carriage is moving. The only thing that's stopping from the wheel from falling off the axle is that pin. But that's what is essential for us to become in our organizations. That linchpin, right? That person is keeping the organization from falling apart. That person is keeping the things that are churning within the organization from falling apart. And so if you become that linchpin, right, you become so special to your organization that they will never let you go, right? They will keep you, and you'll become economically safe because you're that linchpin. On the other hand, someone who says, no, 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 I'm just going to live day to day. I'm just going to do whatever I want to do, right? And if they have that type of attitude, right, then they become expendable. The moment a company is collapsing, the moment they're not making enough revenue, they'll look at who's the person who we should get rid of. Who's the person who's not making us money? Who's the person who's stopping the wheel from dropping, right? Or rather, who's not doing it? And so they will look for these individuals, and they'll say, okay, these people are the first ones that we need to put on the list that we can remove, right? Whereas the linchpin, it doesn't even occur to them, right? This linchpin, oh, we can't lose him whatsoever. And so now is the time, even um, as you are in your home, right? Um, and maybe a lot of you are just students, right? A lot of you are saying, well, how does this apply to me? I'm just a student. This doesn't really is really applicable to me. But really think about it. Are you really spending your time developing yourself as a linchpin, or are you wasting that time throughout the day? Are you staying up all night playing video games, and then waking up late, and then hoping that things will just improve? Or are you that person that says, when this is over, I'm going to come out from it extremely strong? Munir, what's your thoughts on this? Akil, what's your thoughts on this?
Okay. So, um,
Sorry, my audio cut out.
do you want to go ahead, Munir?
I didn't hear that last part about the linchpin.
Like, what we're saying is, like, what do you think now? Like, what should we be doing, right? Should we aim to become linchpins, or what are your thoughts on all of this?
Akil could go ahead. Let me
Okay.
think of an answer.
So I think this is like something Zahruddin would love to talk about. It's like all about mentality at this point. When you, like, as a matter of fact, I think if you're thinking about it right now to help you in this pandemic, you might be a bit too late, because the part where become the carriage, the part where people are like looking to make themselves non-expendable, that issue is already come and gone. So I think maybe a hindsight reflection on if you on which you can ask yourself, what could I have done better, might be valuable at this point in time, uh, and then it might be applicable to the future. But then also changing your mentality is like something that does not happen overnight. So I think it's good to assess yourself at this point in time and then look at it. Inshallah, when this whole situation becomes easier, are you gonna slip back into your habits of not of becoming like non hyper productive? Are you gonna slip back or become like what is it, super slacked and relaxed? That like that's like a metric I would use. But becoming a linchpin or becoming like the mentally strong is like something that should be lifelong. It shouldn't be just for situations like this. It should be, you want success in this world and in the hereafter. You want to have that mentality about things of this dunya and the things for the akhirah. Munir?
Hey,
Um, I don't know. I feel like it comes from the comments. I don't know. I don't really have a good answer for this. Like,
opportunities do you see for yourself?
um, I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, it all just comes down to self-discipline, and if you choose to, I guess, change yourself and like your emotions, because the reality is that if you were wasting time then, like if you're wasting time now, you're probably wasting time then too. But I think this will come more of a, as a, I guess you could say, not necessarily a reality check, but more of a, uh, kind of, how would I put it? More of like kind of what you crave check. So like what you're grateful for check. So things that you take for granted, I guess you'd I don't know, you think more about them now than you would have when you had them. And I think because of that, people will push themselves to do more than I don't know, guess what they were doing before. But I don't know.
I like that idea though, because like people always say reality check, but if you like, we should coin that a gratefulness check. This is a gratefulness check, right? So
Yeah.
I think we're gonna roll. I want to roll with that term. Just to read out what Brother Awai said in the comments. He says, "I think isolation could provide an opportunity." Oh my bad. I think isolation could provide an opportunity for life's greatest moments. Think of many classical scholars who did not have electricity nor had the luxuries we have today, but produced literary works that are eternal.
Right? And so there's a thing, right? I think Munir, even maybe not intentionally, but you hit a mark there, right? That it depends how disciplined you are, and then Akil captured it, right? And how grateful you are as well, right? So things that you are going to be grateful for, and the things that you're going to apply discipline to, that's where your development is going to occur. Someone who's going to take this for completely granted. Oh, I get to be home and I get to play video game. They're going to come out of this even weaker, right? They're not going to come out of. And I saw a really sad thing just yesterday. I went to Superstore, and so the parking lot, like, extremely dirty and nasty, right? How is it dirty and nasty, right? It's not that it's being cleaned, or it's not. That's not the point. It's like people, they're wearing their gloves, but then as they're entering the cars, they're just throwing their gloves on the ground, right? And so there's no regards for it. These are the type of situation that creates pandemics and epidemics, right? These are the type of situation. The dirtiness is what creates, like if you're going to be selfish in this situation, you're not going to actually learn from this whole isolation. So Zahardin,
Welcome to the call.
welcome.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
I just
So
finished
we're,
work at 9:30.
so we're talking about the upside down world, right?
Right.
And the question here is this the right side up, or is this really an upside down world? Or was the previous world, before the virus, before the pandemic, was that the right side up, or was that the upside down world? Where are we? What are your thoughts?
Okay, so I'm gonna try and flip this entire narrative on its head, just because I've been reading like a series of books called The Story of Civilization, and one of it, and so it chronicles civilization from, I want to say, like 5000 BCE all the way to present day, or all the way to like 1950, 1960. It's by this one historian, Will Durant. And so one of the things he says is that,
Zahardin, could you just tilt the camera to your face?
sorry, no worries. So one of the things he says is that with respect to like civilizations and their upbringings, it's usually very hard and fast. But then it gets to a certain point where a civilization will end up collapsing or be on the decline. And so, like, one of the ways I look at it is like looking at the microcosm that is the U.S. and it kind of being the reflection of civilization in our time. And so, a couple of characteristics of a civilization in decline. One, they usually are very complacent. So they usually, like, the civilization in and of itself isn't really thinking about how to progress forward. Two, um, they start to elect really, really horrible leaders. So I'm pretty sure this is really easy to kind of see with Donald Trump. And so with those things kind of being said, we kind of see like a really, really steep decline in morality and in like in uh, the progression of civilization. And this isn't something new. This is more of like just history repeating itself. So I don't want to say that uh, this is really like upside down or right side up. I think it's more just a cyclical event within our civilization, within our society.
That's a good perspective on it. Like a couple of other perspectives we were talking about. Is it maybe just an upside down world for you as an individual and everything else is normal, or is this like the way nature should be?
Or
But this is a nice one. Another
but as
perspective.
but another, like Zahardin, like from another perspective, like from a what about, let's say that's from a book's perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what about a believer's perspective?
Let's
I
focus.
think from a Muslim's perspective, this is actually really difficult to kind of answer. Okay, from my perspective as a Muslim, because I don't want to generalize this, I think that this is a really good opportunity for us, especially to really reflect on where we are as Muslims, whether it be Salah, like whether it be like the 5 daily prayer, Ihsan, Islam, Iman, whatever it may be, and like our strengths, and really take this time, whether we're self-isolating at home, whether we're at work, uh, whatever it may be, to really just reflect and understand that, hey, at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us challenges. How can we better ourselves with respect to these challenges?
Akil, what about you as a believer, as a Muslim? What's your perspective on this now?
Well, for me, I actually think of this as a great opportunity. A lot of times, like of course there's hardship right now, and a lot of people like they take the hardship with like a lot of weights, right? And they understand like they feel like they're suffering, and not to exaggerate or like say anyone's like being a drama queen or anything, but they take their suffering and they make it like heavy, right? But well, for me, like this is like a great opportunity. It's like kind of like what fasting is. When you fast, like one of the points of fasting or one of the benefits of fasting is that you understand and you feel and you sympathize with those less fortunate who don't have a meal to eat all day, right? So now we're understanding and sympathizing with people who experience these hardships on a day-to-day basis, right? Like self-isolation. That's not something you experience when you fast in Ramadan, right? Maybe if you stay at the masjid, but that's like still like a pleasurable event. But now this is going to be like an unpleasurable isolation when many countries around the world have that, right? So it's an opportunity for you to have your heart softened and relate to people who experience those struggles, right? In Kashmir, in Gaza, many places in Rohingya, the Rohingya people, and many other places across the world, right? So I think like the sympathy that will grow within this period is a major positive.
But you made a really good connection here, right? Maybe you didn't fully capture it. But what about itikaf in Ramadan? What's the analogy between itikaf and social and the social isolation?
Okay. Well, what if you're watching this video right now? It's about 30 days. I mean, in the future, it's about 30 days till Ramadan. So we still don't know if we're gonna have actual Taraweeh or actual masjid Ramadan events. Maybe we don't. Maybe we do. Inshallah, we'll see. Or Allahu Alam. But for me, I think a good similarity between the two is when you're isolated. In that point of time, you're isolated fi sabilillah, right? You have the intention or the basis of doing it, using it to drag yourself closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, can you take that intention or those applications and apply it to our current situation of isolation? Question to you.
So, Munir, any thoughts on that? Any analogies that you see between i'tikaf and self-isolation?
Um, I kind of agree with the point that Keel made. It was pretty that I don't know. It's more of like I guess a pleasurable event than I guess like when you're in isolation. But I also think with the ihtikaf, it gives you I guess a sense of motivation compared to I guess when you're at home isolated. And I think that's the biggest thing right now, because before I was isolated, like just personally, like waking up for Fajr is like I wake up, but I guess it was easier as the fact like I had to do things in the morning, so I would get up for Fajr, pray Fajr, and then continue to go. So I think it comes down to a sense of motivation, and like I don't know what pushes you to do like uh to like pursue your deen kind of thing.
You know, actually, let's go to Zahruddin next. Zahruddin, any analogies that you see between i'tikaf and self-isolation?
Um, for me, especially, like, well, full disclaimer, I'm not self-isolating right now just because I'm working. But with respect to itikaf and self-isolation, I really think
Zahruddin, do you go outside and touch people?
no, man.
No, you're self-distancing, right?
I'm working at a pharmacy, right? So it it's like frontline healthcare. And so we see a lot of people kind of come in and be like, "Oh, is my kid? Do I have COVID?" And we have to self-assess them. But just going back to that idea of itikaf and self-isolation, for me, the way I look at it is that actions are based upon their intention. So irrespective of whether you are in the mosque and you're doing a fisabilillah, that I don't think the mosque is a prerequisite for you to be doing itikaf, especially in this circumstance. But once again, I'm not a sheikh. Full disclaimer: I don't want to say that my opinion has any kind of hukum behind it. But that is the way I look at it. So there's a real solid opportunity here to kind of bring those same principles of itikaf, whether it be doing tahajjud at night for an hour a day, whether it be fasting, because it's much easier not really running around anywhere, especially during self-isolation, usually at home. You have the opportunity to read Quran, maybe memorize, maybe call your sheikh up, be like, hey, can you listen to my memorization? This is actually what I'm trying to do, just that I'm struggling with that. But like there's so many good opportunities for us to really uh, take advantage of within this time. We just have to be able to really improvise with respect to our regular routines.
One of the things that I found, now, and I'm also not self-isolating. I still have to go to work, and I'm supporting the teachers as they're teaching. Inshallah, after the spring break, we'll be back at work. But one of the things last week I was discovering that I'm not working on the urgencies of others. Right, I'm priorities. Everything is up to me now. How I prioritize, and then how I do the work. Right, and so the value that I'm delivering to others is up to me now. Right, so I have to take responsibility and I have to take initiative. Someone will say, well, nobody's asking me anything, and of course nobody will ask you anything in this situation, because everybody's trying to stay away from each other, right? But it's really about how you deliver the value, right? And that's not the point that I want to make. But what's happening here is that I'm not operating on the urgencies of others. I get to create my own schedule and pick my own priorities and serve those priorities. Whereas before, in my upside down world, what I look at before was the upside down world. In that world, like someone says, you have to do this right away, and here I am, I'm running to get something done for someone, right? Or something else comes up, I'm running to do something else. But now I get to prioritize. And so one of the unique things that I'm finding as I get to prioritize, it's, for example, just this week, I can choose to sleep all day, right? Or I can choose to wake up for Fajr and then learn, right? And develop myself, right? So for example, can I memorize a portion of the Quran every day? And so what's happening here is, one of the things that I thought about is, what if, to perfect my memorization as I'm doing every day, like if I pick a page to memorize, right? After every salah, because I don't have to do anything for anyone else, I get to prioritize. So after every salah, where before I would have to run to a class or I have to run to a different job, now I can sit for 10, 15 minutes and review what I memorized in the morning, right? So those opportunities are coming up. And so I just looked up what are some benefits of doing etikaf, right? And perhaps we can look at that as the benefit from the social isolation as well, right? So number one, it says it's a time for self-reflection, right? Was I doing the things that I was supposed to do in the past, or should I now change, right? So one of the things here is everybody here, I believe, has to take personal responsibility, right? This, if we say that this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and indeed it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nothing happens except by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's a deeper lesson for us to learn. What is that deeper lesson for us to learn? And it may be personal for each one of them, right? And maybe us four, we can discuss what ours are. Maybe those who are participating online, you can comment what your deeper lessons are. But maybe it's time for self-reflection, right? One of the self-reflection, and even before, I was told by one of my coaches and my mentors that you're able to accomplish things a lot faster. That means you should be doing a lot more things, not looking at what other people are doing, rather set your own pace. And I still didn't listen to it until now. Now I'm self reflecting. I'm like, man, I can do so much more at this moment, right? And that means I could have done so much more before as well, but I was in the illusion of that I'm doing certain things for pleasing others, or certain things that I thought that it would be beneficial, but I'm operating on the urgencies of other. Um, then there's another, it's a like itikaf, it's a form of a close bond with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're by yourself and you're in your home, right? Again, it's an opportunity for you to take, right? Whether you choose to take it or not choose to take it, you can pray, for example, Duha Salah, where and before you couldn't pray the Duha Salah, right? You could pray, you can memorize a few extra verses where before you didn't have the time and the part and the time to, you were operating on the urgencies of your teachers, right? Urgencies of the school schedule. Now you don't have the school schedule. Now you can attend the classes at your own time space. You have, for example, so now you can choose to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but there's an opportunity there between itikaf and between right now. You have that opportunity. Another one, it says that one gets to appreciate the blessings that he has, right? So now that you're isolated, you get to self-reflect. Okay, Zahuddin, what is one blessing that you realized in this time?
That I can pursue more opportunities, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know, like, what I will realize is that probably the biggest blessing is that now that I'm not going to class, I can go and I can volunteer at different places that I couldn't volunteer at before.
So the blessing of serving others, right? So you have that you have that opportunity, and you're realizing that I can do other things for others while you're continuing you still continue your coursework,
of course,
right?
Yeah, right. But it's not that I'm driving all the way to school. I'm having to be at school for 8-10 hours a day, et cetera, et cetera. Now I can take those 10 hours and put them to other things.
Munir, what are certain blessings or certain things that you have realized?
I think much like what you're saying, I can make my own schedule and my own timetable. Because before I was so bound to I guess I have to be on this class on time, or I have to do this at it, and because of this class, I have to put this here. And now I guess I have more of a free time, and not more necessarily free time, more flexibility in my schedule to do different things, and I guess to make that push to do things more of a quality, because I'm not rushed to get from one place to another.
Keel, what is? Let me guess your blessing. One of the blessings that you've realized, the blessing of a gym, right?
Oh.
That now what is one blessing that you have realized?
The blessing of a gym. Okay, so as in something I'm missing. Yeah, me and Zahuddin and you would all realize.
I'm definitely feeling that right now.
Yeah, I could feel myself getting weaker. Even Hamdi's in the comments. This guy Hamdi loves working out, so I'm sure he's missing that out too. In terms of blessing that has appeared, in terms of time management, it's literally because I was a very immersed in tech. I was very familiar with live streaming and all these stuff before isolation, the age of isolation. But now many people are familiar with it. this call, or like even you being able to live stream and talk with you as like something that's more like accessible because everyone is familiar with it. Everyone now knows about Zoom. Like before, like I knew about Zoom, but who could I Zoom meeting with? Not many people. So that's like a blessing that came out of it for me.
For everybody else, Hamdi in his backyard should have this punching bag. So if you want to go work out, you can go to the backyard, right?
Hamdi's backyard.
Unless he threw it out already, but we know like we should all go to his backyard. But socially distanced. They can stay. Hamdi, your family can stay in your house. Don't come out to greet us or anything. We'll just come, throw some punches and some kicks and leave, right? But one thing I remember, like some advice I gave to Hamdi, right? To master your body, right? To learn some plyometrics and do some jump training and do some like. What about that blessing, right? That now you get to learn unique things that you didn't learn before, right? So before maybe you're just stuck to your bench press, but now you have to, instead of bench press, maybe you have to do different types of push-ups,
50
right?
plus.
And master yours.
Yeah.
So, Zahideen, any thoughts on that?
I've really had the opportunity to really get creative,
Oh yeah.
especially with right now. One of the things that like I really found really beneficial is resistance bands. Like,
Oh yes. Did you buy them?
Like I haven't gotten any just because like I've had to kind of like improvise there as well. So like I've been taking like elastic bands and things like that to try and like work on like just chest area. But I've recognized the extreme versatility of these tools, and I really plan to, like, once COVID is over, to like really take it to the next level. Now, with resistance band training, it can totally it can totally replace weight training and like weight training in its entirety. So like having 2-3 resistance bands at home might take you away from the gym for quite a bit of time, even after COVID. Now,
I disagree. Bands can't take.
Oh,
bands.
100%. I'm going back.
Like bands are great because they give you like a different resistance curve, a more consistent resistive curve, and everything. And like you can do unique things like put them over your back and like, but they can't replace weights for me. Like maybe anything under like 100 pounds they can replace. But what are you gonna do? Deadlift like 25 bands?
Those bands can get pretty crazy in terms of resistance. They're like, when I went to what's it called, Fitness Depot, all the resistance bands are gone except like the extremely like tight ones. So like the 25, not the 25-pound one. I think it's like the 50-pound resistance band. But like the more you stretch it, the more resistance you get.
Oh yeah.
So with that being said, like these things, if you start to wrap them up, you can get like deadlift heavy.
Yeah, that's what I do. I like double mine over. Right. I also got from that same place.
Was that an advertisement for Fitness Depot?
No,
I didn't say the name twice. I just said the same place. I hear oranges are a good investment nowadays.
What is a good investment?
Oranges.
Oranges. Why oranges?
I'm just reading comments. Yeah, let me just catch up in these comments. Anyone miss the rec center? Yes. Anyone miss basketball? I should add to that.
I very.
Oh, Munir.
Very, very much.
Oh, Munir, your guys' leagues all got cancelled. All these school leagues.
Yeah, well, basketball season, like we just finished anyways as soon as it's popped up. But like I never played basketball for so long, man.
How are you coping with not playing sports?
Wow.
Getting fat. I won't lie.
Wow, wasting a lot of time. I'll tell you that. I feel like I get my sports, like even just not watching sports, I'm watching like or even just playing like sport video games.
Oh,
it's not the best thing, but
yeah, I remember in 10th grade we used to take this trash can and ball up this paper and tape all around and play basketball in the classrooms, right? Yeah. Maybe you should be doing that in your room, right?
Actually, I actually have a ball in my room. I just like throw around.
If you want to take it to the next level, you can get like a milk crate, and you can if you really
had that, bro.
Yeah, you get a milk crate. Put it like tape it to like one of those street lights and like just go at it. Yeah, I've done it once. But like it looks kind of weird on your house, and some people are like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And then like you have to take it down eventually. But if the people in your neighborhood are just like whatever, I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, maybe I will need to do that for you, Shah, right? As soon as the driveway is cleared of ice, put a milk carton up there, right? but then put a ladder there, but not cut a hole in there, so he has to climb up and grab the bowl every time.
Huh.
Pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
What does the
Okay,
orange?
so-
What does the oranges mean? I don't understand it. Oranges are a good investment.
It's about immunity, right? Everybody wants to build up their immunity, so they're buying
Oh.
oranges to get the vitamin C.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I get it now.
Okay, so here's another thing about etikaf, right? It says that you get to reform your character. You get to reform your character. So how is this an opportunity for us to reform our character?
I want to say, especially from a stoicism perspective, it gives you the opportunity to really like be with yourself. And now I'm gonna take kind of like a Greek perspective with this, but like know thyself is like one of the bigger trends that I've noticed, especially with my generation, things like that. And so like being able to know like, are you for example a night owl versus are you a morning lark? I kind of fall in between the two, but especially when there's a lot of work, like I jump into a morning lark more than night owl. But that's just kind of like this is a really good time to be able to really figure out all the things that you are more accustomed to as opposed to other people.
Munir, for personal self, where do you see yourself developing your character or reforming your character? What opportunities are there?
I feel like I have to find a way to, I don't know, start motivating myself again. Because before, like, I don't know, I feel like one thing that I guess benefited me with the timetable or my schedule, like, I had to be there at a certain time. So it kind of forced me to do that. So I think one thing is, like, I have to wake up and, like, oh, I still have, like, usually I used to wake up and go to the gym. So now, like, I have to wake up or, like, go to my basement and work out or something like that. Even just push ups and stuff. So I think, yeah, just that.
How many push-ups can you do?
Oh, I don't know.
Depends on the
I
kind
actually
of
never
push-up.
like tried my math.
Traditionals.
Like 150, not
Like
one set,
without
like
dropping.
two
And a single
without
set.
dropping.
Yeah,
Probably
single
80.
set. 80?
Yeah.
Munir.
Maybe like half of that.
40?
Yeah.
I think I can beat you. I'm probably
Think so?
like about 50.
I'll have a competition.
Alright, we'll settle this.
But I need to train
Yeah.
for like 3 weeks so I can do like 100.
All right, fair enough.
I noticed maybe because I'm older, if I do a set or push-up set by itself, like without warm up, right? Or I do like 4, 8, and then I go to a full like a set, right? Then I notice, like for example, if I just do it by itself, I can only do like 20, right?
Yeah.
But then I do like warm up with 4 push-ups and then go 8 push-ups and then take a rest and then go at it. I can go above 40, right? So that's for me. Like I can hit 40, but I have to really warm up before I can hit 40 now.
Yeah. Here, I'm gonna share this with our audience. It is the actual oranges thing.
You guys can just get Jameson's what's it called, vitamin C.
Actual oranges. That's what we're talking about. Okay, for me, what was the question again?
The question is, what opportunity in reforming your character? What opportunity do you see in that?
Okay, for character reform, one of the opportunities I see happening is like becoming more understanding with like patience, because like I don't know, I think I was like a decent patient person, but now I have to do things with people that they might not be familiar with. For example, like we're working digitally, so a reform of patiency would be like one for me. Yeah. Dry answer.
I'm just looking at some points that you guys made. For example, becoming self-motivating, right? So this is the time, right? So someone doesn't become self-motivating. So what happens, right? They'll not accomplish anything. One of you said discipline, right? So even like a lot of us, we were just talking about it, that we want to eat a lot, right? I want to snack a lot, right? And so so like you have to have discipline to keep the snack away from you and not constantly snacking,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you have to build build that discipline. So someone who doesn't build that discipline, then he comes out of this more fatter, right? You have to have the discipline and the motivation to work out in your own home, right? There's no gym to do that, right? Some
Insanity.
people, yeah, some people they just went to the gym and they saw other people working. So you have to do something there, right? You can do whatever you want. Some people got on the elliptical, some people got on the treadmill, some people just went on the band, some people went on the weights. But because they're seeing other people, there's extrinsic motivation. But now here's the opportunity to become intrinsically motivated. And then the last thing that was mentioned was patience as well, right? That there is your opportunity to develop patience. And again, look at this, right? We're all revolving actually around going towards Ramadan, right? So, I mean, this is an amazing opportunity, right, for us to develop what actually Ramadan should be doing for us. But we're getting ready for Ramadan by getting there, right? You're getting self motivated. You're building patience. You're building discipline. And so, if we went into Ramadan in that way, even though the masajid might be closed, inshallah they open up. Inshallah we do dua that it opens up. But what if they don't, right? You can be self motivated to do tarawih with your family, right? Maybe at this moment you can memorize one juz that you could be reciting throughout Ramadan in tarawih, right? Or different family members memorize different juz, and they're doing that during tarawih at home, right? So another amazing opportunity from that perspective. So here's the last one. Um, Another benefit from etikaf, right? That you get to refrain from idle talk and gossip,
Mm.
right? Because you're there and socially isolated. You're not. Maybe you're texting. But again, it's an opportunity for you to move away from idle talk and gossip. So let's talk about that a little bit.
All right, yeah, because the thing about now is that we might be socially distanced, but we're still spiritually connected. We're still technologically connected, so communication channels are still open. And I think, what is it like? A lot of streaming services are now free, been popular, right? Like everyone's watching Netflix right now. Everyone's watching whatever Amazon Prime right now. So it's like super easy to get into just talking about shows and not insightful conversation, right? So I think, especially if you're in group chats, you get you share a lot of memes. You guys know who I'm talking about. If you watch a lot, like whatever.
I honestly don't
Yeah, yeah.
because I'm not ready.
You're not. No, Netflix is not free, but I'm saying like people are using those things. Uh, what one free? Some other apps are
So a lot of the children stuff on
yeah,
Amazon and
yeah. The Audible stuff is free. That was it.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, if you allow yourself to succumb to entertainment, well, not succumb to entertainment, nothing wrong with it, but like if you make that the center of your life right now, because like maybe you're all your friends are home right now, so you can all go online, party up, and play whatever Fortnite. You can Fortnite party together. That's like really, I imagine that's happening a lot right now because it's like spring break on extension, right? I think if you do that, then it might be super difficult to stay away from idle talk. But if you treat this like pre-Ramadan on steroids, or like Ramadan prep plus or Ramadan prep premium, whatever you want to call it, then you're like in a better headspace.
Zahardin, what do you say?
Um, I think Akil really touched most on most points. It just, I think right now, especially for like you were talking about discipline, like how to and like going back to like working out by yourself in your own home. But you also touched on a really interesting point, and that was the power of people.
Extrinsic and
And
intrinsic, yeah.
people go to gyms and they see other people working out, so they're like, "Oh, let me go and work out too." Now you have the opportunity here to go wake up your entire family, go pray Fajr, right after Fajr, go work out for an hour, and your entire family can do it. And most of the time, most families are really lethargic. Most families don't really work out. But look, your family is your closest, like is are your closest bonds, and to like just out of love for them really we're focusing on the physical aspect of working out, focus on that mental aspect of working out, and like introducing them into that possibility of really getting better and work and building yourself from a physical standpoint is something that I think maybe that I think this COVID-19 gave us that opportunity to really push forward on.
One of the things was that um, at work, for example, right? I'll show up at someone's office and I'm sitting there and I'm just having this idle chit chat, right? You're just doing that idle chit chat, and then you go to another person and you're doing work there, but then idle chit chat begins, right? So there's a lot of work that like if you take the entire 8 hours a day and say actually how much work you're doing, you can compress it to maybe hour and a half, right? And then you have a bunch of fillers in between that is, for example, documentation. But then a lot of that is chit chatting. A lot of them is walking to the washroom and coming back. A lot of that is going and getting water and coming back, right? So there's a lot of fillers there, right? And so now you don't have that anymore. At least like from like Akil was saying, yeah, you can still meet on Zoom, right? But imagine, like, remember our meetings, right? So our meetings, we meet for half an hour. We're going at it, even sometimes 40 minutes, an hour, right? We're just going at it, chit chatting, and we're making fun of each other, and then we never get to the actual meeting until after that, right? But then what happens with now is that okay, here's a meeting, right? It's
I like to play a game called Run for Mama's Broom. Sorry, just go.
Yep. So you see that a lot of now, right? Here's a meeting, like here's a time for the meeting. We show up to the meeting. We have to get it done, right? And because online, like for example, like the regular version of Zoom, like the non-paid, non-subscription version, you only have 40 minutes. So you have to finish the meeting and you have to move on, right? So there's less idle talk that's occurring. Okay, Munir, what do you think?
Yep.
Opportunity of reducing idle talk.
I don't know. I feel like what you said, like you touched on. I guess you're wasting less time, but I also think like I don't know. You need that interaction kind of thing. So you like I was saying earlier, you kind of crave the social interaction. So I don't think all idle talk is necessarily bad. However, I guess this gives you a way to limit it, so then you're still being efficient or somewhat efficient at least.
Okay. All right. So last comments. So the last comments are: what is your thoughts? Is this the upside down world, or is the pre-pandemic the upside down world? Okay, and you get to have 3 points. Okay, who wants to go first?
Dibs out.
So
Munir, you're it.
My bad. I feel like I would say this is the upside down world for the reason that I don't know, to be taken away from people, it's different. It's I don't know. You took social gatherings and social togetherness for granted compared to what it is now. Like even just like talking on meeting like or Zoom, it's not the same, I guess, as social interaction. And even that idle talk, like you cut out a lot, which is necessary for I don't know, which is necessary for I don't know, you crave it. So that's the one thing I would say. Um, yeah.
Yeah, Zahardeen, you're next.
like my issue is I don't really subscribe to the idea that upside down versus right side up. I really think there's opportunities and drawbacks to both, especially with this world. Going back to Munir's point, there is like we don't have as much social interaction as we'd like to, irrespective of whether we're self-isolating or whether we're social distancing, whatever it may be at work. We don't have that opportunity to really be together with people. But at the same time, I really think that COVID-19 has brought us a lot of opportunities with respect to being able to really look within yourself. And going back to that stoicism idea, we have the opportunity to come back to our Lord, really build routines that we didn't think we could build before. Whether it's tahajjud, I know most people don't pray tahajjud. I know most people don't fast Mondays and Thursdays. But these are the opportunities that we now have to really go and push those things forward and maybe make those lifelong habits. Last thing, I think this is just honestly like a cycle. I don't think that this is any more than uh, any more than any more than the cycle of civilization. But that's a perspective that's kind of been built around books, around history, and history is an ever changing thing. But at the end of the day, 20 years down the line, we'll be like, oh, you remember COVID-19 and the opportunities that it brought us? And I think that is where we should be really focusing our attention.
That brings us back to Oasis' point that he said at the beginning. Um, Necessity is the mother of invention. He didn't quote that. That's a very popular saying. I forgot where it came from. But I have to agree with Zahiruddin. I do think, unfortunately, this might be a cyclical, of a cyclical nature, meaning that I think even if this exact same situation does repeat itself 30, 40 years from now, people are going to be like all surprised and acting over again, and there will be the whole panic shopping all over again. Like people, unfortunately, like the masses won't like take that lesson with them, I feel. But I think so, like if you want to Plato apparently said that saying. Plato. So if you want to like consider upside down or right side up, again, I don't think I would generalize that. I would say that matters. That's an like dependent on the individual's answer. Maybe for some people, this world is completely upside down for them. Maybe for some people now, everything fell in place and this is the right side up world for them. But I think, and the lasting lesson from this, 20, 30 years from now, will be the individuals, not the groups, the individuals who learn from this lesson or learn from this entire situation and better themselves, right? Because you'll have a small group of people who do take this as an opportunity for improvements, and those people will make a difference in the future. Positively, inshallah.
Yeah, and one of the things, like the cyclical thing that was being mentioned, and inshallah, maybe you can discuss that more in our next podcast, is that there's that these pandemics perhaps they're going to be coming more often, right? And even if it's not these pandemics, there's going to be a lot of disruptions like these that will be coming. And the reason I say that this is the upside down world, and not that this pandemic is the upside down world, but or before is the upside down world. I say this pandemic is part of the upside down world, in the sense that the world that we're living in is also upside down, and the pandemic is part of that, right? That these cyclical corrections will come, trying to put us in the right course. I don't think that will happen. I don't think we'll be put on the right course. And here's my thoughts on this, right? That when Jibril alayhi salam asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to tell him about the hour, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is saying, "I don't know, you don't know," right? Meaning the person who's questioning does not know more than the one that is being questioned. When is the hour? No, nobody knows except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there are certain signs to this hour, right? When this day of judgment comes, there's certain signs to this day of judgment. What are those signs? That a slave girl is giving birth to her mistress, meaning this is something that is upside down. A slave girl does not give birth to her master, right, or her mistress. And then you have these barefooted, naked, shepherds who are competing in building tall buildings, right? And so it's the upside down world again, right? And so these end of times we'll be seeing this world becoming upside down. And so we are in that in that moment, right? We're in that upside down world. And so and this is something what we have to cope with, that these corrections will come. So really think about, and I was thinking about it from a Quranic perspective, like that when Pharaoh was oppressing the people, right? When Pharaoh was oppressing Bani Israel, there's so many different things that are coming to his nation, right? The sea is becoming red, right? And there's locusts that are coming, and there's pandemics that are happening. So there's a lot of things that are happening, and then they will go, "Oh, go pray to your Lord that this is ended." But again, is it happening one after another. No, perhaps there's a break, and then all of a sudden people forget, and then another reminder is coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So and so this is why one of the things is we have to learn our lessons and then learn how to cope with this, because perhaps because we're already in that upside down world, the frequency of what is happening might increase. And inshallah we can talk about more some other times, but here's something for you to comment on. What are some topics that you would like to discuss about? What are some personal, and also if you would like to be on the show, like give us some comment. Would you like to be on the show? And you could be our fifth and sixth person, inshallah, and you can be having these discussions with us. If you want to be on this show, please comment. If you want to have a special topic, reply back. What topic would you like? Akhil, go ahead. Take it away.
All right. So thank you for all tuning in today. We appreciate you being really interactive in the comments. That's a really big factor for us. Well, I know many of you guys watching this will be watching it in video form after it is posted. So don't worry not. Soon we will have a schedule where we can properly tell you ahead of time, so you could join the live stream, be part of the comments, and be part of the interactions. And inshallah, our next podcast, we will be looking at some historical points, and it should be quite exciting, I hope, because the facts were pretty surprising to me that we learned. Again, if you want to follow us, we have our Facebook page at Momintum Official. We have our Instagram page at Momintum Official, and we also have our website, Momintum.com. Right, so you can join. You can find all our materials there, inshallah. And thank you for watching. Any other comments from my guests?
Not really, to be honest with you, man. But
all right, thanks for joining, Zahardine. Thanks for coming in, Munir. Thank you for. Sorry.